Guys, welcome to an all-new edition of War Week Radio. Guys, happy Sunday to everyone. And I tell you what, before we move forward, we've got a ton to cover in just a very short amount of time to do it. Before we introduce our master strategist, Mr. James Gogue, we do have to remind everyone that this show is brought to you by FightSaga.com. For all of the latest boxing news, please go visit FightSaga.com. Also sponsored by the offices of Collins & Heron. For all your commercial collection needs, please dial 210-277-7491. But, guys, this would not be an episode of War Week Radio on Sunday without our very good friend, three-decade fight trainer, Mr. James Gogue. James, how the heck are you this evening?
Hey, Joe, I'm doing good.
Well, I tell you what, brother, I don't know what to think, man. I mean, when you consider, right, and the reason why I changed the theme music for tonight, right, that's the theme. If you guys remember 70s cinema, that's Midnight Express. That's that sense of urgency, right? Because when you look at the UFC kicking the living snot out of boxing's dismal numbers, boy, that's a reason to sound the alarm because the house is on fire. What do we have to do to fix this? Gogue, according to numbers, initial numbers, last night's UFC event did over 1.25 million purchases on ESPN pay-per-view.
Oh, my God. Jeez.
Yep. And, guys, I'm going to write an article about that. But I think two different approaches, right, that I can see. Obviously, Top Rank has the right idea by staging Lomachenko versus Teofimo Lopez on free ESPN, the flagship station. I think that's a shove in the right direction. Your thoughts on this, Gogue, before we start breaking down Lomachenko versus Lopez?
Look, Joe, in the 70s and 80s when boxing was in its last golden years, free boxing, the biggest fights were on free TV on, ABC, WA.W, Sports, CBS, or NBC, on a consistent basis. You had good, good hard-fought matchups, evenly matched, okay, on the networks and everything, and that was the norm back then. Back then, Joe, one thing I like about the networks, they weren't married to a promoter, okay? They only bought the best fights available, okay? So if you didn't have a fight that intrigued them, they wouldn't even touch it. So that's why you always consistently got some good, solid matchups. Now, you compare that to nowadays, totally opposite, One promoter is married to, certain promoters are married to certain networks and everything. And, they don't dare take their best fighter to go fight another, promoters or rivals network. And that's the problem you got in boxing right now. You guys, you don't have the best fight in the best on a consistent basis like UFC every week. Dana, he doesn't baby nobody, even the undercard, from what I hear. All evenly matched fights, okay? None of this mismatches that you see or what do you call it? Guys, none of these 10-to-1 underdogs, you see on pay-per-view or stuff like that. You know what I mean? They're evenly matched, and that's what boxing's missing. The best matchups on a consistent basis, free, not on pay-per-view, okay? And that's what's really destroyed the sport, Joe, is the greed of, these damn idiot promoters. It's basically the suits that run boxing, them crooked sanctioning bodies, the promoters that, I'm not saying all of them, but, certain promoters that are not giving the fans the best fight possible.
Indeed, and what a Don, the late great Don Warwick-Chargan, the guy whose, moniker that we actually don on our radio network. Don Chargan always told us, right, and we were so lucky to have his counsel every single week on our show. He always said, look, if you pair up a good fighter with a good fighter, you get a great fight. You pair up a bad fighter with a bad fighter, you get a great fight. You pair up a good fighter with a bad fighter, well, you get what we saw last night on Showtime.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
You get a mismatch. Yeah.
But I tell you what, we're going to get back into the business portion of the industry, guys. And once again, guys, keep in mind, Gogue and myself, right, we are very pro-boxing, first and foremost. We don't play favorites. We don't think like fans. We want what's best for the sport, and we're going to give it to you whether you like the message or not. It's the absolute truth. With all of Gogue's knowledge, almost 4 decades involved with the sport, as well as my interest in the sport and as much as I've done over the past 2 decades, yeah, we're going to give it to you, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And we don't play favorites. We don't take sides like fans who prefer one network over the other or one promoter over the other. We don't care. We just want what's best for the sport. So with that disclaimer in mind, let's go over Vasyl Lomachenko versus Teofimo Lopez. It's official now, Gogue, October 17th on the flagship station, ESPN. Now, what is the most important or potentially impactful aspect of Top Rank and ESPN placing this spectacular event for all the marbles at 135 on the ESPN flagship channel?
Just like the...
Gogue, are you there,
that's what
sir?
happened. That's what this fight is, okay? It's not on
I'm sorry,
pay-per-view.
you cut out just for a second, Gogue. Can you repeat that, please, sir?
Well, it's just like the olden days, Joe, when the big networks like NBC, CBS, ABC put the best fights available on free TV so the whole, country could see it for free, not on pay-per-view. And that's why this fight has a lot of significance, okay? Because they're putting us, a matchup that, Al Heyman wouldn't even dare put on Fox. He would do it on pay-per-view.
Indeed, as we're seeing a great matchup. Again, not knocking the promoter, not knocking the matchup, not knocking the fighters. And we'll go into this a little bit later, Gogue. But, yeah, I think most of us would agree that Charlo versus Derevyanchenko is a fight that we would have seen 5 years ago on regular subscriber Showtime. There's no doubt in my mind that we would have. This would have been just a superb doubleheader on Showtime or HBO. But now it's being thrust on the Showtime pay-per-view network, right? And we'll go into this as to why later on. But, Gogue, you're absolutely right. Bob Arum has the right idea, even asking his fighters, hey, guys, we don't have a live gate. We don't have as much sponsorship right now, and we don't want to put this on pay-per-view because we want as many eyeballs as we possibly can to see this spectacular fight. So they're expecting an audience of at least 3 to 4 million people watching this at the very least, right? So, and that's what we can hope for. Now, let me ask you something before we actually talk about the strengths and the weaknesses of both fighters, Gogue. I recently heard an interview with Jorge Linares, someone who was defeated and stopped by Vasyl Lomachenko in 2017, and he stated, from what I've seen in his last 3 fights, Vasyl Lomachenko has lost a step. He's not the same guy that I faced in the ring. So I'm going to ask you this, Gogue, from what you've seen, is Vasyl at 32 years of age still the same fighter that he was when he made 5 fighters consecutively stop and quit on their stool?
So he's moving up another weight division, okay? When you move up weight divisions naturally, when you're not on that juice, you lose your punching power. And, he's not hitting with the ferocity like he did with the lower weight divisions. But he hasn't lost nothing. He's still a fighter with a multidimensional talent with a high boxing IQ. Indeed.
So I'm going to ask you this on the adverse, Gogue. Now, Bob Arum was very clear. He stated to the media right after the Richard Comey knockout last year in December, he stated, look, if it were up to me, I'd put this fight off for another year or two just to build up the brand of Teofimo Lopez, get him a bit more experience, get him a bigger mainstream attraction. But, hey, what can you do? The kid wants this fight. And so, basically Bob has no choice. If this is the fight that Teofimo Lopez wants, then this is the fight that Bob Arum has to try and make for him. So I'm going to ask you, is this increase in competition, level of competition, is it too much too soon for Teofimo Lopez in only his 16th professional contest.
I looked at the odds. He was a 3-1 underdog. The guys that make the odds, okay, they seem to think so. This kid is not experienced enough, Joe. All of a sudden, he did look very, very impressive. Destroying, a very tough, durable, hard punching Richard Comey. But Comey is not, Lomachenko. You know what I mean? A guy, with a tremendous amateur background. Was he 2-time Olympic gold medalist? 3 over 300 fights. Fought for the
almost 400 amateur fights, Gogue, with only one loss.
Yeah, and what did he do? He won the world title and second or third pro fight. And how many title defenses he had? Oh, he's had a ton. You know what I mean? But Lopez, he brings a lot to the table too. So this fight has a lot of intrigue. The explosive, sharp counter-punching of Teofimo Lopez, who could take you out at any time. You know what I mean? That's what has the intrigue of the fight fans that are out there that, want to watch it. Because a lot of them think he could beat, even though the odds are like 3-1, a lot of them feel because of the way he looked. It's that perception again, Joe. The way he looked against Comey, they think he could do the same thing to Lomachenko, and he could if he hits him like that.
Indeed. Well, like I said, in the immortal words of Don Chargan, boxing is one of the only sports in the world in which perception can quickly become reality. Guys, with that said, let's look at the tail of the tape for the title challenger. I mean, he's a world champion, but he's going to be the challenger in this event, Teofimo Lopez. Guys, he comes into the ring at age 23, fights out of the orthodox stance, stands at 5'8" tall in the center of the ring. He fights behind a 68-inch reach from Brooklyn, New York. He comes into the ring with a perfect record of 15 wins, 0 losses, 12 big wins coming by way of knockout. Gogue, what can you tell us about the strengths and weaknesses of Teofimo Lopez?
Well, his strengths are, Joe, he's a very instinctive, natural fighter, okay? He's got a good instincts out there when he fights, okay? He has a habit of doing all the right things at the right times. He's fast. I mean, he's fast and sharp with his combinations. He's a sharp counter puncher, Joe. You make a mistake, boom. You know what I mean? You're going to pay with them sharp counters. And he's an explosive puncher, Joe, okay? His punches are very sharp and compact when you don't see them, okay? Nothing like that fraud we saw last night, that Romero, okay? His punches are sharp,
later,
fast, and explosive. Joe, this guy don't telegraph his stuff, okay? Like Romero, this guy, he boxes beautiful out there. He'll touch. One thing I like about him, he's nice and loose. He touches you with that jab a lot, or he changes the speed of his jab. He'll hit you with some hard jabs just to get in rhythm and everything. Once he's in rhythm with his jab, everything flows. That right hand, just sneak it in there, whap. You know what I mean? The left hooks, lead left hooks. What do you call it? The sharp counters. If you make a mistake, Joe, he's got great eyes. That's one thing I like about Lopez. He's got great eyes. He'll see your mistakes, and he'll capitalize real quick. I mean, it's just God-given ability, okay? He's a rare talent, okay? He's a rare talent. Even though he only got 16 pro fights, that's stuff you can't teach, okay? I know guys 40, 50 pro fights, 60 pro fights that can't do the stuff he does, okay? That's what I'm trying to say, Joe. When you're super talented like that Lopez kid, you could do stuff that other fighters will never be able to do, okay? It's just God-given. His reflexes, his instincts. He'll work up and down the body, the head, body. He'll work his jab. That's what I like about him. He'll work his jab upstairs and he'll work it downstairs just to keep you off balance. Okay, like Floyd Mayweather. One of the reasons why he can control distance. Floyd Mayweather, the reason why he can control distance so good is his ability to work his jab effectively. Not only just to the head like everybody else. He'll work jab upstairs and downstairs and upstairs. and he mixes the, what do you call it? He'll mix the rhythm and the speed of his jab up for you, just like Teofimo, okay? Not letting you get used to a certain rhythm, certain speed, and you never know when that jab is going to go. Is it going to go high? Is it going to go low? And once he got his jab working, Joe, then all his other weapons come into play. The sneak, the lead right hand, the sharp, the lead left hook, the sharp counters. Okay, beautiful. And when he hits you, Joe, whew, he could put you, he could put you on your ass. And once he hurts you, Joe, he's a damn good finisher. This Lopez, yeah.
Indeed. Well, I tell you what, the only fight, Gogue. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
His jab is the key. His ability to work it up and down. But on a southpaw like Lomachenko, it's hard to jab. Okay, because Lomachenko's coming from a different angle and everything. So, but he still could paw with his jab a lot, and he still could throw hard, sharp jabs when he has to, and he still could lead with that left hook. But he's pretty damn good with that straight right hand. He's pretty damn good throwing that straight right hand left hook. Nice, not long range, Joe, but like medium range, where it's harder to see and you don't see it coming. But when he hits you, Joe, that's what separates him from everybody else. His ability to hit you and hurt you and take you out.
Indeed. So, Gogue, I'm not sure if you've seen any weaknesses up to this point, but I have to ask you, do you see any weaknesses? The only fight I can think of in which he looked, mortal was back in 2019 in July when he faced the undefeated Masayoshi Nakatani, in which he, scored a decision victory. But, he wasn't able to score that sensational knockout that he had grown accustomed to getting. Gogue, do you think maybe this gentleman is always looking to get someone out of there with one single shot? Maybe that might be his only chink in the armor. He's in love with his power.
Nah, Joe. Nah, his power to him is secondary. His skills and the way he sets up his power is number one. Like I said, Joe, everything's behind that jab of his, okay? And his patience, he's very patient, okay? He likes to see when you're making the mistakes, and he wants to, he'll see the mistakes you're making, then he'll counter on them. Or he'll take advantage of them, okay? But, yeah, he's just a sharp, quick counter puncher, Joe, if you make mistakes, and he can hurt you at any time. So, and his punches are not, he don't telegraphs his punches, Joe. They're sharp and compact at medium range where you don't see them. That fight against the Japanese guy, okay, that guy was like, I don't know, damn near 6 feet tall, rangy, awkward, and very, very, very tough, where he could take Lopez's punch, okay? And,
well-conditioned, that's
you know
right.
what I mean, Joe? You combine all those elements, the size, the range, his toughness. Yeah, man, that Japanese guy will give anybody problems.
Indeed, yeah, as durable and as well-conditioned as he is, and most Japanese fighters are that way. I hate to stereotype, but that's the way they always come. But, Gogue, have you seen any weaknesses other than maybe the lack of maybe competitive level that he's jumping into? Is this a case where he may be jumping from the wading pool into the ocean?
Maybe. This is he just won the title. Now he's unifying the title against, a guy that was considered the best pound for pound, the guy that was considered the best pound for pound fighter in the world. And he never faced an animal like Lomachenko, a guy that's, a totally different animal than he's ever seen.
Well, with that said, let's go into the strengths and weaknesses of, the Ring magazine champion at 135, and that's Vasyl Lomachenko. Guys, he's going to enter the ring at age 32. He fights out of the southpaw stance. He stands 5'7" tall in the center of the ring, fights behind a 65.5-inch reach. He lives right now out of Oxnard, California, originally from the Ukraine. He comes into the ring with a spectacular record of 14 wins, 1 loss, 10 big wins coming by way of knockouts. Gogue, what can you tell us about the strengths and weaknesses of Vasyl Lomachenko?
Like I've talked about Lomachenko on prior shows in the past, he's a multi-dimensional talent, okay? with a high boxing IQ. A multidimensional talent, meaning, Joe, there's so many layers to his game, okay? He could box you, okay, intelligently from range. He can press you, put intelligent pressure on you, okay, with a high degree of intelligence, okay, when he's attacking you. He just doesn't walk in with his face and takes punches like, Jaime Manguia. You know what I mean, Joe? He has a very sophisticated attack, Joe. That's what I'm saying. He can box you from range. He can attack you with intelligence. All his angles are superb, Joe. The way he gets inside and just, pivots around you and hits you at angles and everything. But Joe, he just throws so many looks at you. Godly, it just keeps you confused and off balance, because you don't know what the hell, what he's going to do next. For example, he'll box you from a range, move around you, circle at you, pivot around you, change the speed of his jab, paw at you, hit you with good jabs, throw that straight left hand to the body, see how you're going to react. Then, then he'll lead with the left hook, straight left hand, then he'll, to the head, and he'll pivot around you, Joe? Box you. Then all of a sudden, he'll start putting pressure on you when you least expect it, okay? Intelligent pressure with a lot of good touch jabs, a lot of good head and upper body movement, a lot of variation in his combinations to the head, to the body, head. Then he'll pivot around you, Joe, so he's not there to get hit. Then he'll hit you from different angles and everything, Joe. And his head and upper body movement is superb, Joe. How he just slips punches effortlessly. You know what I mean? How punches just slide by him like a young Wilfredo Benitez. Okay, but the thing is, Joe, he knows how to counter when a guy makes mistakes. So that's another dimension to his game, Joe. Like Lomachenko, you make a mistake, he knows how to counter. All those amateur fights at the highest level, Joe, that helped out a lot. But like I said, Joe, he just has so many weapons in his arsenal, so many variations to his attack, okay? And you don't know which one he's going to do, and his defense, Joe, is superb, okay? Like Floyd, he has multiple layers of defense. He has a good high guard defense if he wants to. Sometimes, he mixes it up. His different variations of defense. He'll have a high guard defense. He'll start moving his head. He'll start putting that jab in your face. Oh, yeah, Joe, his ability to move it in and out of range. He'll be right there for you to get hit. Then once he sees you throwing, he'll step a couple steps back just to get out of range. Then he's back in range, okay, Joe, to attack. He's in and out. See, Joe, when you do that, Joe, when you move in and out, you make a fighter hesitant, okay? Because what happens is, Lomachenko's up in range, and all of a sudden, you want to get off on with some combinations with him. He moves out of range, and makes you miss. Then all of a sudden he's back in. Then, you want to get off on him again, and he's out of range. So what happens, Joe? You start getting hesitant. You know what I mean? On your offense, you start becoming indecisive. And oh yeah, Joe, the feints he throws at you too. Oh my God, he throws all types of feints at you. He just doesn't throw one feint. He'll feint with his head. He'll feint with the jab. He'll feint with that left hand. He'll feint with the head. Oh, you know what I mean, Joe? All the little things that he does, and he changes it up all the time. God, he just keeps you confused. And you can see why when he fights a lot of guys, they get flustered. They get very hesitant. When they want to attack, because they don't know if he's going to be in or out, or they don't know if he's going to move his head and counter, or he's going to pivot around you. You know what I mean, Joe? Shit, I've never, honestly, Joe, I haven't seen a fighter like that ever in boxing.
Wow, yeah, the consummate enigma. That's what Teofimo is going to be looking at on October 17th. Well, you know what the old saying, Gogue, be careful what you wish for, because you may just get it. Well, Teofimo's going to get it on October 17th, whether he's ready for it or not. So now, Gogue, I'm going to ask you, what are Teofimo Lopez's keys to victory for pulling off what would be probably not just a mild upset, a very big one against, what a lot of people consider the best fighter in boxing?
He's got to hit him. He's got to hurt him, Joe. he's got to hit him, with those punches. Lomachenko ain't going to be able to see the medium range, short range punches, okay? All it takes is one punch to put Lomachenko on his ass, okay? And when he hurts him, Joe, he's got to finish him off. Because as this fight goes on, Joe, you're going to see the difference of class, okay? The difference of levels, okay? Because Lomachenko's, vast experience over this kid. His vast, variation of skills and boxing IQ over this kid. But if he doesn't provide an explosive knockout early in the game, okay, that means as the fight goes on, you got to favor Lomachenko, okay? But just like he did Comey, hurt him, get him out of there, okay? That's what he's got to do to Lomachenko, because I just can't see him, outboxing, outfighting Lomachenko, for 12 rounds, with the skills and the boxing IQ that Lomachenko has over this kid, okay? Now this Lopez got a lot of skills and he's got a high boxing IQ, but nothing like Lomachenko.
Yeah, I remember, Gogue, when we were watching the Olympics back in 2016, everyone was raving about Shakur Stevenson for good reason. But I asked you who your favorite prospect was to come out of Team USA, and you said Teofimo Lopez. You said this guy is the most pro-ready, and it wouldn't surprise you if he won a title within his first 15 bouts.
No, he wasn't on Team USA. He fought for Honduras. He got kind of screwed.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's
he won
right.
the Olympic trials, but they still picked Carlos Balderas. So yeah, so he had to go the other route, and he fought for Honduras.
That's right. My apologies, but yeah, you said this kid has the best pro style, that you think he's going to have the biggest impact the soonest. And that he has. So, Gogue, what are the the keys to victory for Vasyl Lomachenko going into this pivotal bout at 135?
Don't get hit by that big right hand or left hook early on by Lopez, okay? Watch his sharp counters and everything, okay? Just, fight a very good, smart defensive fight. Don't get hit by those, those big explosive punches early on, and just be Vasyl like he always does, He'll figure him out. He knows what he's got to do. He'll get a good, as the fight goes on, he'll get a good feel and a good rhythm. And, Joe, with all that experience and, in the amateurs and all those, title defenses, he'll know what to do. He'll adjust his strategy, what I'm trying to say, as the fight plays out, okay? And he'll always stay one step ahead of Lopez as long as he don't get hit, okay?
Indeed, Gogue. So we're at the 30-minute mark of the show, sir. I'm going to ask you now, do you have an initial prediction as to who wins and why in this amazing contest between Vasyl Lomachenko and Teofimo Lopez on October 17th?
The odds say Lomachenko, if he don't get knocked out. Okay, I'm going to predict two circumstances. Lopez knocks him out explosively, finishes him off, which is lower probability, or Vasyl, because of his vast amount of skills and talent and boxing IQ, beats Lopez.
So, guys, according to the handicappers at Warwick Radio, if you're going to bet on this fight, bet on a Lopez knockout straddled by a Vasyl Lomachenko unanimous decision.
Yeah.
And there you have it, guys. Take it to the bank. Well, we'll have this segment up in just a matter of a couple of hours on our YouTube page. Guys, don't forget to visit Warwick Radio on YouTube. Comment, like, and subscribe. But, Gogue, there was a lot of action around the world.
One more thing, Joe.
I'm sorry, as you were, sir.
Who the hell is Lopez going to spar to get ready for a guy like Lomachenko? Okay? Ain't nobody out there can fight like Lomachenko, okay? You can get southpaws, but none of them are going to be able to do the stuff Lomachenko could do, and change it up and change up his attack, consistently in the round, the different variations of skill, boxing IQ, angles. Nah. He like I said, there's nobody out there that he could spar that can prepare him for a guy like Lomachenko.
Well, I can tell you what, guys, we can't wait to see it. It can't come soon enough. It's going to be on ESPN October 17th. Tune in for a spectacular evening of boxing. But, guys, there was boxing last night on Showtime Sports. On the main event of the evening, David Benavidez, who wasn't defending his title, but got a big victory over the always tough but punching bag-like Alexis Angulo. He made him quit in between rounds 10 and 11. Gogue, there's a lot to like about this kid, but one of them isn't his discipline. Your thoughts on David Benavidez' TKO performance last night on Showtime?
I think he's a hell of a fighter, Joe. What the main thing I like about Dave, he's a young kid, but he's very relaxed, very relaxed, real nice and he's real nice and loose and relaxed in the ring, just like a young James Toney. Okay, he doesn't let anything fluster him. Okay, especially when Angulo pushed him back by the ropes, he was throwing all those punches. He kept us calm and cool, hands up, and just flipped the punches, blocked the punches like it was no big deal and everything. He's got a long. That fight yesterday was dictated by Benavidez' jab, controlling that range, busting them up slowly, okay? Fans out there, if you're listening in, when you're trying to break a tough piece of meat down, you're just not going to go out there and throw punches and try to knock them out. It doesn't happen like that. It's a process, that takes rounds to break a fighter that's tough like Angulo. And it starts with the jab. The jab is the number one weapon when you break a fighter down. You consistently, hit a guy with the jab from round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. His face starts swelling up, okay? His nose starts busting up, okay? His eyes start, swelling up, okay? Then he'll start slowing down. Then you mix body shots up like Benavidez does, okay? They'll break him down even more. And David, he just broke him down intelligently, with that big, long stick jab, the body shots he was, digging in, especially the little sweeping right hook to the liver, the left hooks, the uppercuts, the straight right hands. Man, that Benavidez, he's not, just has a few weapons in his arsenal. He's got many weapons in his arsenal. He throws all types of punches at you, at all angles, okay? And unlike, even though he's tall, he could fight in the pocket. When you get there, he's not going to just tie and hold you up, like you see in the Eastern European or British fighters, who can't fight inside. This guy, you get inside, he wants to fight inside. He loves to fight inside. You know what I mean? It's like I said, it's natural for him. And this Benavidez, as far as his fighting ability, I ain't got a problem with that. Like you said, Joe, his lack of being a pro 24/7 between fights, staying in training, letting his lack of discipline, of letting his weight go too high, and not, sticking to a strict diet, to keep his weight in check between fights. That's my only concern about this kid, and it's going to bite him in the ass. He's 23 years old, Joe, and if he don't correct those habits, you know what I mean? Hey, Joe, in this sport, you can take shortcuts, but shortcuts are going to bite you in the ass one day. You just never know. Indeed.
Well, congratulations to David Benavidez. So what's next for David? Because we did speak with our very good friend Henry Ramirez, trainer, on Friday, and he's a good friend of David Benavidez, and that's admittedly one of his favorite young fighters to watch. And he was, giving him the benefit of the doubt, saying, maybe it's a result of maybe the unorthodox training of this during this pandemic. Maybe that had a lot to do with it. Maybe the gym restriction time, staying at the bubble.
Joe,
what are your thoughts on that? But you don't agree with that, though, do you?
No, he has his own private gym he built, okay? Wherever he lives, in Seattle, I don't know where he lives, or Phoenix. He has his own private gym, okay? He could train there anytime he wants. It's not like a public gym like Wildcard where they had to shut it down. He could walk it in, he could go there anytime. And how do you let yourself get way overweight, okay? It's called lack of discipline, not eating the right foods, not having the right nutrition. He admitted that last night. You know, he didn't say right off, yeah, I screwed up and I ate myself. I ate anything I wanted and I ballooned up like a fat pig. You know what I mean? Look at his body at the weigh-in, Joe. Look how soft. That's the worst condition I've ever seen that kid. He looks soft in there at the weigh-in. You know what I mean, Joe? That tells me right there. You know what it told me, Joe? When he was getting ready for this fight, he wasn't in shape. He wasn't in condition. He was fat and overweight. It was a fat weight. It was a fat weight loss camp, not a camp to get ready for a fight. You want to hear a story about Bernard Hopkins, Joe, to our listeners?
Absolutely, sir.
Back in the 90s when we used to train in Big Bear, Bernard just became champion, okay? He was getting ready to fight a title defense against Glenn Johnson, okay? In fact, both were training in the same gym. Yeah, Glenn would train earlier and Bernard would come in the afternoon. It was Larry Goosen's gym in Big Bear. Larry Goosen had the first high-altitude training center in the United States. It was something new over there, you know, training in the high altitude, getting the best condition in your life. So Hopkins wanted to try it out. So he came there. Get this, Joe. I remembered I was there. First time I ever met this guy. He flew all the way from Philly to Ontario because there's not an airport in Big Bear. You got to drive from Ontario, California to Big Bear, hour and a half away. He flew all the way across the country, got off the plane. One of the guys picked him up and drove him all the way to Big Bear, hour and a half away. You know what he did, Joe? Instead of going to his apartment, putting his bags away, he came right into the gym. And you know what? He went up to Larry Goose and he goes, I want to spar. And Larry goes, hey,
wow.
man, you know what he said, Joe? Look, Larry goes, he goes, Larry, I want to spar. Larry goes, hey, Bernard, you know, you just got up here. It takes a while to get, acclimated to this altitude. You've been traveling all day. Just go back and come back tomorrow. He goes, no, I want to spar. He goes, okay. So he got this guy, I think Raul Franco, who was training up there. And, they went 6 rounds, and he beat the shit out of him. And afterwards, he came up to me and Larry. We were watching him, and he looked at us, and he goes, I didn't come here to get in shape. I'm in shape. I came here to get ready for a fight. I said, whoa.
Wow.
You know what I mean? That's the attitude Bernard had, okay? He didn't go into camp to get ready, to get in shape. He was in shape when he got in. He said that. I'm in shape. I'm getting here I'm up here to get ready for a fight, okay? And that's the attitude fighters should have. When you go into camp, you should be in shape already, okay? All right? But the only way you do that, Joe, is if you live a Spartan lifestyle, 24/7, 7 days a week. Maintaining your discipline to your diet. Okay, training between fights. To maintain your conditioning, or to improve your conditioning, Joe, with strength and conditioning. There's all kinds of strength and conditioning. Stuff you could do nowadays between fights. Develop your skills and everything. Bernard, he was telling me, I learned a lot from that guy when I was up there. I was watching him training. Back then he had Bowie Fisher was his trainer. Not once did they work the hand pads, by the way. Not once did they work the hand pads. It was just old-fashioned shadow boxing, sparring, hit the heavy bag, speed bag. Yeah, it was old school, And I watched him. He had very great work habits in the gym. Okay, he was meticulous, all business. When he got in that gym, it wasn't, nowadays you go to gyms, it's like a high school, where everybody's socializing and taking selfies and all that shit. Hopkins, he was all business in that gym. When he got to that gym, he went to work. And when give you an example, if his training time was 1, he got there at 1. Okay, no, he got there like 15 minutes earlier than he trained at 1. Oh yeah, he was very meticulous in his training habits. Oh yeah, and when he got there, Joe, a lot of guys take 5-6 weeks to get used to that altitude and slowly break themselves, slowly work their way in the running to get their body used to it. Not Hopkins. Hell no. He ran up there like he was running at sea level, 7,000 feet altitude. Yeah, just meticulous work habits. Just what I learned from him. And right then and there, I remember Larry told me, he goes, because Larry, he just became champion. He goes, you see that Gogue? He's going to be a champion for a long time.
Was he ever?
Yeah. It's the work habits, Joe. It's the discipline. That's what gets you. Can have talent like Benavidez, but that's going to catch up to you if you don't do all the extra stuff. And you shouldn't have your fucking coach babysit you to tell you to do it. You should do it. Okay? You should be an adult, a professional, and do it. Okay? You shouldn't have his daddy, hold him by the hand and, oh, mijo, don't eat that. That's not good for you. Or, mijo, let's go to the gym. You know what I mean? Or weigh him every day. He should do all that himself, Benavidez. Okay? The kid's not mature enough. That's what he's telling me, Joe. He's got to learn. He's not mature. Even though he's a very good fighter, Joe. You know me, I don't give a lot of compliments out there because I don't think a lot of these bitches could fight nowadays. But this kid's a solid fighter, okay? But he doesn't have the other half to be a great, great fighter, and that's that discipline and the commitment between fights, okay? Every time he gets ready for a fight, it's a fat loss. Jenny Craig fat loss count.
Indeed. Well, tell you what, congratulations to Mr. David Benavidez. Now, Gogue, what is now the WBC title at 168 pounds has been vacated. You think Golden Boy Promotions and Canelo Alvarez and DAZN, you think they're going to try to make a move for that sooner rather than later?
Canelo, without a doubt, he brings the money to the WBC. The WBC, the WBA, and all them organizations, they're all about money, okay? Who's going to bring the most money to them? And Canelo right now, he's a cash cow. He's a cash cow in America,
Well, don't be surprised, guys, if you see DAZN try to put together an event for the 168-pound title that's just recently been vacated, the WBC. You might see them actually try to make a move to try and settle this out of court. Their dispute right now with Canelo Alvarez. Don't be surprised if you see Canelo versus Triple G3 for the vacant WBC 168-pound title. I have a feeling that's
Joe,
going to be...
I was going to say
Go
one
ahead,
thing,
sir.
Joe.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say one thing. What do you call it? Benavidez?
Mm-hmm.
How can you just give up your fucking title twice? First for cocaine, then the second time, on the scale. How can you just give, something you worked all your life, just give it up like that? Give up. He wasn't a regular champion or a emeritus champion, a champion in recess and all that bullshit. He was a real WBC champion, and he just gave up his belt. He just gave it up, Joe, without losing it. That's a total disrespect. He totally disrespected his craft, his profession. Okay, first cocaine, now this. That tells me, Joe, he ain't got it upstairs mentally. Okay, immature still.
Well, I tell you what, he'd better try like hell to make 168 again, because can you see him actually being able to take the shots of a guy like Arthur Beterbiev or Dmitry Bivol at 175, Gogue?
Oh, geez. Different animals.
Completely different animal, guys. Well, best of luck to you, Mr. Benavidez. Hope you go back to the drawing board and come back stronger, brother, because you definitely have a talent and you have a lot of fans. So come back stronger, brother. Show us what you're made of. You're only 23 years old. You can rectify everything with one great training camp. Let's go to the co-main event, Gogue, of Showtime's broadcast last night. And I know talking about a fighter being held by the hand of his father, Rolando Romero gets the shocking and unpopular UD12 over Robert Garcia's fighter, Jackson Marinez. Gogue, did you get a chance to see this? And were you shocked by the decision last night?
Actually, Joe, I wanted to see Rolly because I never seen him fight before. And to me, he lost the fight. The other guy, the guy got hit with a couple of those big right hands, but he handled it good. And, he kept his cool. And, I thought he did enough to out-hustle him to win the fight. But, I couldn't believe the decision. I was totally shocked and everything. But, boxing, that's why, Joe, what do you call it? Right now, my attitude is I don't even like watching a lot of fights out there because the multitude of problems boxing has that they never correct. And one of them is bad judging. Yeah,
that was pretty abysmal, Gogue. In my
he
opinion,
can't fight, Joe. He can't fight. Rolly can't fight. Okay, I was saying that last night on Twitter.
Well, tell us how you really feel, Gogue.
Yeah, I wrote on Twitter last night when after the first couple rounds, I go, first time watching Rolly. My impression, he can't fight. That's what I said on Twitter. He needs to learn how to fight. You know, the guy has no skills, Joe. He just tries to, what do you call it? Take you out with one punch at a time and everything. He has no boxing IQ. He doesn't know how to. He doesn't have the, the basic fundamentals like how to set up your attack with the jab. That's number one. Okay, that's basic fundamental. That's the basic fundamental number one. Number one is your footwork and balance. Knowing how to move around in that ring. Number two, getting your jab established. Okay, getting your feints established. Okay, once you do that, then everything follows, your combinations. He don't even know how to do that, Joe. All he tries to do is just kick back, counter you with that, that right hand and throw one punch at a time. And every time he, what do you call it, Joe? He throws a punch. He yells in there like, somebody's putting a foot up his ass. Okay, every time he throws, like somebody's got a boot up his ass. You know what I mean? He's raw, green. He's raw, green, and one-dimensional. He don't know how to fight, Joe. And, he was looking good, impressing everybody with all them quick knockouts he was getting. Anybody looks good, Joe, when you're fighting lower-level competition and you're knocking them out, okay? It's that perception. But when you got a guy that can fight back and takes your best punch, then we'll find out what you're made of, what skills you got.
Well, I tell you what, that one-dimensional green as molasses fighter just became, Gogue, the interim WBA lightweight title holder with scorecards of 116-112 by Glenn Feldman, 118-110 or 10 rounds to 2 by Frank Lombardi, and 115-113 by Don Trella. I was in shock, Gogue. I thought for sure when they announced unanimous decision, I thought for sure that Jackson Marinez had won the fight. Because I scored the fight 8 rounds to 4 on my unofficial scorecard.
You know what? What I was shocked, Joe, when they put that belt around him, I said, "Oh my God, he won a belt." That's what I was shocked. This fight was actually for a bullshit belt. It was that bad. That's what I was shocked. I'm like, "Oh my God, he's got a belt around him." Now he's gonna go walking around.
After
he's
only
gonna go walking around like
fight,
Mario Barrios. I'm a world champion. Fuck out of here, man, with that bullshit. That's fucking disrespectful to boxing. Okay, nothing against the kids because they win that shit. Okay, and the WBA, they tell you that. Oh, you win this belt, you're a world champion. No. You can't have 4 world champions in one division. You only can have one. And when they create the regular champion, the gold champion, the what do you call it, the super champion, and so on, you lose credibility. Okay, you lose credibility to the public and everything, man. So, I find it insulting, man, when people tell me, "Oh, he's the world champion." I go, I ain't gonna mention his name. Somebody that already told me this guy he's a world champion. I'm like, fuck out of here with that shit. He's an interim world champion. What the fuck does that mean? An interim? Okay, all right. It means shit? Okay, it means shit. It means nothing, man. Joe, I came from a different era in boxing. When you won the title back then, okay, it meant something. It was sacred. It was inspiring. It was, it was, what do you call it? Uplifting. You know what I mean? Oh, you did something amazing. You became world champion.
Captured the imagination of the fight of the fans. Yep.
Yeah, it was all inspiring. It was that. You know what I mean? It was like, whoa, man, he's world champion. I remember that, man. I remember that. Now it's fucking a joke. They diluted the value, the meaning of world champion, just like the U.S. Central Reserve printing money like crazy, devaluing the U.S. dollar. You know what I mean? That's what's going on with boxing right now. They're devaluing what these world titles really mean. It's a fucking joke. And right now the only 2 are doing that is the BC and the WBA. The WBO Paco ain't doing that shit, or the IBF. It's old school. They don't do that shit. But the BA, the BC, they're doing that shit. But here's the thing, man. Well, who's letting them get away with it? The fucking promoters and these networks. that are letting them get away with it, okay?
That's right. You know, and here's the theory behind it, right? Because I remember speaking with Daryl Peebles of the IBF, and he said, well, one of the reasons why they do it in theory, and he didn't agree with it either, but he said one of the reasons why the WBA and WBC claim that they do it is to give younger fighters greater recognition and to get them on network TV. You hit the nail right on the head. Networks want to see title fights. But Daryl also told me, well, the reality of it is, though, these guys want to tax as many fighters as they possibly can to line their own selfish pockets. They want to get that 3% from as many fighters as they want, and they're just posing behind the idea that they're doing the best thing for the young fighters to try and get them recognition.
Get the fuck out of here, man, with that bullshit, man. They ruined the sport by doing that, Joe. You ruined the sport, okay? They got too many. Number one, they got too many fucking sanctioning bodies as it is, 4 of them. Jesus. You know what I mean? And then they dilute the sport even more by creating these champions in each weight division. And like I said, Joe, I've lost a lot of interest for boxing. I don't even like watching it no more unless really a really intriguing fight coming up. I don't even like watching these young prospects coming up. To me, a lot of them can't fight. You know what I mean? And number 2, you know, these title fights are a joke, man. Oh, this is for the 126-pound WBA championship. I'm like, this is a fucking regular title. Oh, I'll give you an example. Josh Franco, you know, he scored a spectacular win over Maloney. And
that's right, from San Antonio.
Was it a regular or interim champion? I don't know, Joe. I can't remember.
It's all the same.
You know, everybody knows who the top dog is, and that's Inoue, the Japanese guy. It ain't Franco, but they're calling him a fucking world champion, okay? Because they gave him that belt. You know, I mean, that's disrespectful to the sport. You know, that's disrespectful. You know, calling him a world champion, but the real champion, everybody knows who he is. That Inoue from Japan.
That's right.
Okay, that's just another example. Man, I'm just sick, man. Like I said, Joe, I'm sick of this shit. Okay, I'm sick of boxing.
Well,
I don't even like I said, it turns me off. I don't even like watching a lot. Of the fights. I don't.
I tell you what, Gogie, that's a perfect segue, Gogie. No, yeah, we're not even going to discuss that. We're going to take a little break, Gogie. We're going to take a little break to calm you down before we get back into this past weekend's action. And this is a perfect segue into our all-new segment called Tune In or Pass. Now, Gogie, I'm going to name some of the big events coming up on the boxing calendar this upcoming weekend, and you're going to tell us if you're going to tune in or pass, and you're going to tell us why or why not. All right? On August 21st, we see the return of Sergio Maravilla Martinez versus Jose Miguel Fandino in a special 12-round middleweight attraction and a main event of the evening. Gogie, are you going to tune in for that one?
Oh, why would I want to tune into a shot fighter like Sergio Martinez? Pass. He ain't got no business fighting, okay, Joe?
Okay, well, the next one, brother, and we're gonna.
He's a has-been. He's a retread.
We're gonna go to the next one, Gogie, on DAZN, August 22nd, in which WBC has already deemed this. The winner gets the interim WBC heavyweight championship and their diamond belt. Dillian Wright is going to take on Alexander Povetkin for the interim WBC heavyweight championship on DAZN. Are you going to tune in or are you going to pass?
Why do I want to watch a 5-time drug cheat like Povetkin, okay, who's been caught so many times and they just keep on giving him second, third, fourth, fifth chances, okay? You know, he had his day. He had his chance and he blew it. And so did Dylan. Who's he fighting? Dylan White? Is that what you said?
Dillian Whyte, yep.
Yeah, he had his chance and he blew it, okay? So what intrigue? You know, maybe it'll be a good fight, but I don't care about it, man. I mean, then they're fighting for that diamond belt or whatever it is. I mean, why?
Yeah,
why
that's basically the WBC interim championship. Yep.
Yeah, I don't care. I didn't even know they were fighting until you just told me that. I could care less. And guess what, Joe? I know boxing. I follow boxing. If I didn't know they were fighting, then I guarantee a lot of the, casual fans don't even know they were fighting.
Well, the diehards have circled this one on their calendar, and this, in their minds, this is the first big fight of the fall schedule. Gogue, so it might end up being a very good fight. It's a great style matchup, but in your mind, this fight is of no consequence.
The only heavyweight fights I want to see are the significant ones. That Anthony Joshua against Tyson Fury, or that rematch with Fury and Wilder, to see if Wilder can come back and overcome that loss. Them are the only only matchups I want to see in the heavyweight division. I don't give a shit about all them other heavyweights out there, because the heavyweight division is pure shit, pure garbage. Okay, there's only a few of them that to me get me excited. One kid coming up I really like, Frank Warren's guy, Dubois. He's interesting. He's getting better every
Daniel
fight.
Dubois.
Young kid, big, strong, good puncher. You can see his IQ is developing. Okay, and how he's handling, how he's starting to get that experience in handling different styles, adapting to different situations in the ring, Joe, that he's never seen before. Okay, he shows me what I'm trying to say, Joe. His boxing IQ is getting better and better. He's thinking. To me, I like fighters that think. Fighters that think go a long way. Okay, stupid, dumb fighters that don't think get punched in the face a lot. But this kid Dubois, you can see he's getting better. And he can hit like a son of a gun. That Dubois, that's a guy I like. That's a guy that gets me excited. I don't mind watching him against in this developmental stage as a fighter, because he's improving. I see it. But besides, Joshua, Wilder, they had the chance to fight and they blew it. Wilder, bitch. You know what I mean? Overpriced himself. Fight never went through. Okay. Fury, Joshua. I don't know. Politics, fucking politics. The best don't want to fight the best. I don't know when they're ever gonna fight. Wilder got his fucking ass whooped. Got his ass handed to him. Okay. So you know what I mean? But I want to see the rematch. He'll probably get his ass whooped worse the second time around. We'll see.
So, Gogue, Dillian White versus Alexander Povetkin, you got to pass, or you going to tune in?
What's it on, DAZN?
DAZN, yep. This Saturday, August 22nd.
Shit, if I ain't got nothing to do, if I ain't busy, I ain't got nothing to do, I might just watch it. You know what I mean? I might. I don't know. We'll see. Not intriguing to me.
I can't believe it. A very tentative tune in. I love it. So,
yeah,
Gogue,
we'll
now we're going to come back to America. This is on the flagship station of Fox, home of The Simpsons, August 22nd. Showtime, Sean Porter in the main event of the evening versus undefeated German prospect Sebastian Formella. Hold on, wait for it, for the IBF and WBC title eliminator. Pass or tune in?
If I'm not doing nothing, I'll watch it if it doesn't intrigue me. Because I don't know anything. Who's that guy? What's that guy? German? That German guy?
Yeah, Sebastian Formella from Germany. He's undefeated. He's 22-0 with 10 knockouts.
Oh, wow. He's undefeated from Germany. That tells me a lot about him with 10 knockouts. That tells me he can't fight. Okay? Yeah. Joe, why do I want to see something on, is this fight going to be on Fox or Showtime?
It's going to be on the big flagship channel of Fox, home of NFL Sunday.
Why do I want to that's the shit they're putting on Fox, Fox Premium or the Fox flagship? Oh,
nope,
come
it's
on,
not
man.
FS1.
They could do better than that.
This is home of The Simpsons, Gogue.
Yeah, exactly. I like Sean, man, but come on. Put him in somebody, this is a set, this is a give me, this is a layup. Put them in something where it's going to be competitive, man, where it's going to be, it's going to get the fans excited. This is how you turn fans off, Joe, by putting mismatches like this on TV. I don't know anything about the guy. Never heard of him before, never seen him. He's from Germany, 22-0 with 10 knockouts. Well, what does that mean? That means he ain't shit, okay?
He's ranked number 24 in the world, Gogue.
I'll pass.
So that's another pass for Gogue. Okay, now then, on ESPN Plus, that same evening, former light heavyweight champ Elider Alvarez is going to take on, well, the alien killer, the last guy to beat Bernard Hopkins, Joe Smith Jr. And that's just going to be your 12-round main event, light heavyweight special attraction. Pass or tune in?
That's a good fight, Joe. That's a good little scrap and everything, you know. Both guys had opportunities to win titles, and they both lost. So this is kind of what you call a crossroads fight, Joe. Okay, important for both fighters. This fight's very, very important for both fighters. You know what I mean? You lose this fight, you know, you really better think about getting a job. But you know, the winner of this fight, of course, is going to advance on to getting bigger. The winner of this fight is going to get bigger fights, but a good stylistic matchup, Joe. A good stylistic match. You know, probably not doing Saturday. Yeah, I'll tune in for that one. Yeah, that's a good fight.
So if it's both on at the same time, you're going to choose this one over Sean Porter versus Seabass Formella.
Oh man, Seabass Formella is just a formality. Okay, that's all. It's a formality for Sean Porter to knock some rust off and get a win. That's how Al does. Al doesn't put the best fucking fights on Fox. You know what I mean? He acts like a manager and protects his guy. And this is the shit he shoves down our throat, man.
Well, I tell you what, Gogue, we're a little bit over time, but we're going to keep going as long as your schedule permits. All right. So if you can hang on for another 5-10 minutes, I do have to ask you about this because it was just announced that the PBC pay-per-view, Showtime pay-per-view, is going to be a 6-fight card starting at 7 p.m. Eastern. It's going to consist of 6 fights. Now listen to this. The most intriguing bout in the minds of most is going to be the third bout on the card. Jermall Charlo versus Sergey Derevchenko competing for the WBC Middleweight Championship. That's going to be the third bout on the card. Now, the way it's going to play out, you're going to have 2 fights, and once again, there are 5 title fights, but that really doesn't mean very much in this day and age. But you're going to have 2 fights, and then you're going to have Charlo versus Derevchenko. Then you're going to have a brief intermission, and then we're going to come back, have 2 more fights, and then it's going to be headlined by Jermall's brother, Jermell, and he's going to be unifying the 154-pound weight division when he faces Hasan Rosario. That's going to be your main event of the evening. Gogue, what are they thinking here? I'm trying to figure this one out, and I really can't make sense of it, and it's going to be on Showtime pay-per-view for probably a whopping $80.
Oh, jeez. Oh, Joe, I don't know what they're thinking over there at PBC. They do some shit. You know what I mean? It just mind boggles me, man. That fight, Jermall against Derevchenko, should be the main event. That's going to be this scintillating matchup. Okay, that's going to have a lot of sizzle. You know what I mean? Styles make fights,
in my
Joe.
opinion, Gogue, and in my opinion, Gogue, that's the fight that should be on Fox, the flagship.
Yep. I agree. That's a fight that should be on Fox National.
Think about this, Gogue. How many eyeballs, how many people, how many households would be tuning in if it were on free flagship Fox channel? You would see probably upwhere near 5 million, right? At least. Now, though, because it's going to be on Showtime pay-per-view, we'll be lucky to get 75,000 in this social climate or in this economic climate. Yeah. Am I wrong?
Joe, like you were telling me earlier today, this shit, it could be a flop just like Crawford and that Postol. Nobody knows these fucking guys, man. These guys ain't mainstream names where people are going to want to, pay to watch this fight, especially during these hard economic times. Okay, Joe, this is not the way you grow the sport by putting good matchups, but it should be on free network TV, okay? Not making people pay for that, man, pay for this shit, man. That's one of the problems one of the many problems we have in boxing right now. Just look at it's just, it's a great fight card though, especially the main event. I mean, especially the Charlo and Derevyanchenko fight. I like Derevyanchenko. He makes great fights because he makes his opponent fight. And this is going to show me. I'm going to learn a lot about Charlo that night. You know what I'm going to learn, Joe? It's about his character. Okay, I'm going to learn a lot about his character and how he handles those tough moments in the fight.
Indeed. It should be a terrific night of boxing. Unfortunately, it's and I have to say this, guys, as much as I love how passionate the fans are of boxing diehards are the absolute worst sports fans in the world as far as the ones in the U.S. The ones in the U.K. are great. They support their fighters through thick and thin, and they buy pretty much every event. But in the U.S., boxing diehards are the absolute worst. Not only are they the first ones to complain about how the sport is run, but they're the last ones to throw down their own money to support any of these events on pay-per-view. Look at the UFC fans in comparison. Look at the UFC fans in comparison. 1.25 million people, and this is just the initial numbers, chose to pay for that event last night, UFC. How many, in your estimation, Gogue, are going to choose to pay for this event on Showtime pay-per-view September 26th?
They're lucky if they get over 100,000, Joe.
But I guarantee you over 1 million will stream it illegally.
Yep.
That's what's wrong with boxing in this country, Gogue. The diehard fans are the first ones to bellyache and complain about everything, and they're the last ones to buy a ticket or purchase an event on pay-per-view. That's what's wrong with the sport. So until you start supporting these events and actually start paying for them, you forfeit your right to complain or bellyache about any promoter or fighter or any matchup. You just take what the promoters want to give you. Thanks for playing. Your final thoughts on this, Gogue, before we call it an evening and wish everyone a wonderful Sunday evening.
No, Joe. Man, the idiots that are in charge up top, they have the perfect opportunity to grow this sport by putting the best fights available, okay? But they don't. You know what we're talking about. I ain't got to, they put on the shittiest matchups, man. They put on the shittiest, crappiest matchups at undercard, like that Travis Kaufman, oh, God, and that Otto and Roley. Oh, Jesus Christ, man. This is Showtime, man. This is Showtime Premium, and they show shit like that. Man, like I said, Joe, boxing to me, if I watch it, great. If I don't, if it ain't a scintillating matchup like Lomachenko or Lopez, I could give a shit if I don't watch it or not.
Gogue, I almost forgot, sir. Before we actually called an evening, I almost forgot. We have a question for you from the mailbag from our very good friend Antonio Luna, who's actually tuning in from Long Beach, California. Thanks for tuning in, brother. He asked you, Gogue, Demetrius Andrade is currently the WBO middleweight champion, but his last 4 opponents since he signed a contract to fight on DAZN exclusively has been, 4 people that I've never heard of. Why can't he get a fight with either Canelo, Charlo, or Triple G? Your thoughts, Gogue. Thanks for tuning in, Antonio.
Charlo's on a different network, so that ain't going to happen, okay? But fights that are in the, the Zone network, like Triple G, Canelo, whoever else, he could get fights with. But maybe, Joe, I don't know, man. Maybe he overprices himself like all these fighters nowadays. You know what I mean? His style stinks. He's, every time I watch him, I change the channel. He doesn't entertain me, Joe. A multitude of reasons, Joe. But I don't know what's going on behind closed doors. You know what I mean? And the way these fighters act nowadays, Joe, they always overprice themselves and everything. Okay?
I think it's a combination of a lot of things, Gogue. I'm sorry. Go ahead. As you were, sir. I'm sorry. I was going to say, I think it's a combination of a lot of things, Gogue.
Yeah.
I think it's one, he's overpricing himself. Two, I think it's considered by all of his contemporaries as being too much risk for the reward because he can't sell tickets. He doesn't have a fan base, and you're right. It is a very disruptive, awkward, unfan-friendly style.
He's a stinker.
And three, you're not going to get anything out of it, even if you do beat him.
Yeah, Don Chargan calls guys like Andre stinkers. You know what I mean? They're not. What do you call it? They're not appealing to watch on TV.
Well, I tell you what, it's a real shame. He is one of the more talented fighters in boxing, but one, he doesn't stay active, so he doesn't pick up any new fans. Two, it's a very awkward style. No one wants to touch it. Puts him in a very difficult position. And three, because he's a world champion, he wants a lot more than his market value dictates. So there it is, Antonio. Thanks for tuning in, my friend. But, Gogue, your parting shots for our listening audience this Sunday.
No, I'd just like to thank all the fans for tuning in, especially, all the fans we have in England, man. Golly, this has been a very, very tough year for boxing. Tough because it's hard to watch fights on TV, Joe, if there's no live crowd there, okay? When you have a live crowd, Joe, it just brings so much. That's one of the reasons why, Joe. Another reason why, I'm kind of like turned off by boxing right now because there's no really, live crowd to generate that energy to get me excited to watch these fucking fights, especially. And, besides the terrible matchups they put on, there's not the energy of the great fans out there, attending the fights and everything. So what I was going to say is, just get this damn pandemic over and hopefully everything turns to normal. Probably not till next year, and start getting, bringing the fans out there and putting on big fights and getting everybody excited and everything. And because right now, Joe, just look at the ratings in boxing.
It's terrible right now compared to UFC, Gogue. Yep.
The fans.
Well, I tell you what, guys. Yep. Well, I tell you what. Let's hope that the big fall schedule comes through in a big way. But guys, he's 3-decade fight trainer James Gogue. James, thank you so much for being on the show this evening. That's going to just about do it. We want to thank you guys for hanging with us over time. Tune in to us again on Tuesday when it's going to be me and Rodney Green. But guys, have a wonderful Sunday evening, everybody.